We left San Francisco, arriving in London, our first destination. Our main priority was to visit Siobhan's family, her mom and brother, and a few friends. Having worked for 3.5 years in preparation for the trip, we were ready to enjoy ourselves. We now have 5 weeks in Europe. London, England's capital, is like any big city, yet with a character all of its own. We've both been to London many times before, and like any place you're revisiting, you go back to places you enjoy and try to check out others you've not yet seen. By foot, bus, or rail, there's something interesting to see around every corner. Covent Garden was good for a return visit. Originally part of a convent vegetable garden, was laid out as a covered market in 1632 to sell flowers and produce. The covered market is now home to an assortment of retailers, with performers and talented musicians about to entertain. We wandered into Kensington Gardens one day with our friends Pete and Mark. Though a place of respite for Londoners, some parts were not accessible to all. Its colorful gardens were quite dazzling. This park is the site of Kensington Palace, the former residence of the late Princess of Wales. Even more grand and impressive was Windsor Castle in the city of Windsor, just outside London. It's here that the royal family live, for at least some of the time. We left London for Ireland. We were to see our friends Tim and Maggie, who live near Kinsale, County Cork. It was to be a 12-hour journey by bus, ferry, and bus again. Tim met us at the terminal in Cork City and took us the rest of the way home. As our friends lived next to the sea, we enjoyed country Ireland at its finest. Though it wasn't bad, Maggie kept telling us, the weather was beautiful before you got here. One evening we went for a walk on the old head of Kinsale, a finger of land atop cliffs surrounded by a restless sea. It was off the old head that the British passenger ship Lusitania was sunk by a German U-boat in 1915. Suspected of carrying munitions, the event eventually helped draw the United States into World War I. Our 5-day visit was spent leisurely enjoying the countryside, its quiet lanes, and catching up with our friends. Daily we seemed drawn down to the seashore, usually accompanied by the ever-watchful Ben. As you can imagine, it went quite quickly. We were sorry to leave Tim and Maggie, going by bus now to Dublin, the capital of the Republic of Ireland. Siobhan's from Dublin, and we were to stay with family in the Harold's Cross area. We returned almost daily to familiar places in the city center, meeting up with more family and more friends. The current economic upswing in Ireland has put many more vehicles on the road, so the ride into the city center was pretty slow. Not bad if you hadn't a schedule to keep, as it allowed you time to look about. Dublin City has over 1,000 years of history for the visitor to explore. But sometimes, the simple things are just the most enjoyable. Like a stroll down Moore Street. Though popular for its produce, the hawkers and tradespeople turned out to be of more interest to me. After 5 short days, we had to board the ferry to Holyhead, Wales, with a connecting bus back to London. Visits home are never long enough for Siobhan, but there's always next time. Only stopping in London for a couple of days, Siobhan and I proceeded on across the channel. We had friends to see in the Netherlands. That's barley there for making beer. And these are peas over here. Jorien, Rudy, and Jason live in the state of Zeeland in the southern part of the country.
Say, I'm Jason, I'm Dutch.
I'm Jason, I'm Dutch.
Dutch? I'm Dutch.
Rudy's family has farmed this land for over 200 years, and now it was his turn. What a lovely place it was. One day, we were shown around a most incredible structure built by the Dutch, called the Delta Project. It seemed to be a source of great pride, this engineering marvel. The structure allows for the natural tidal flow of water, so nature is not impacted by its presence. In times of need, when the sea and tide combine and surge, the gates are closed to stop the sea from flooding the lowlands, of which much of this area is comprised. Rudy and Jorien also took us on a day trip to the Belgian city of Bruges, just over the border. A climb up the church's clock tower gave fine views of the city, provided you could stand the toll of the bells. A beautiful place. Bruges is referred to by some as the Venice of the North. To get a special perspective on the city, we took to the canals. Past brilliant architecture, we leisurely made our way, Bruges fully living up to its title. It was strange. Amid all this beauty, I felt restless. It wasn't until a few days later, on the return ferry to England, that I realized what was bothering me. I had itchy feet. Siobhan too. This would be our final stay in London before leaving for India. We were starting to get anxious to fly. This was what we considered to be the beginning of our travels, the jump into a totally foreign culture. A transition that many had said would be a shock, no matter how prepared we thought we were. We arrived in Delhi, India at 11 p.m. The temperature was 96 degrees Fahrenheit, with 95% humidity. As we hadn't booked a room, we hung out in the airport until 6 a.m. Though this lack of planning would be a source of anxiety for some, Siobhan and I enjoyed it. We were wide awake anyways, so people watching and fending off persistent taxi drivers was quite entertaining. Besides, we were on holiday and had nothing but time. At dawn, we took a wild taxi ride to the Paraganj area to hunt down a room. We had arrived. The atmosphere here seemed to wrap itself around you. Not only the heat and humidity, but a multitude of smells and aromas that were everywhere. The Paraganj is a maze of streets and alleys, with the main bazaar of shops to hone your haggling skills. It's here that one gets used to the masses, a claustrophobic feeling sometimes grabbing you. Getting used to our new diet was soon followed by an unmistakably urgent feeling grabbing you. So, for a couple of mornings, we viewed life from the safety of the hotel balcony. As it was monsoon season, we'd settle down and watch the daily showers pass over the city. And life carried on. Once confident, we explored Delhi and took our first Bemo ride. A three-wheeled contraption, quite capable of raising your heart rate. Delhi is India's capital and third largest city. It's comprised of two parts. Old Delhi, the capital of India between the 17th and 19th centuries, when it was under Mughal rule. They were Muslim conquerors who also controlled much of the Middle East and Asia Minor during this period. Many years later, wanting to move their capital from Calcutta, the British created New Delhi in 1911, erecting many large governmental buildings. At the New Delhi railway station, we booked tickets on the train to Agra, the site of one of the forgotten wonders of the world and possibly the most well-known symbol of India, the Taj Mahal. Train travel has a certain charm of its own, and it was good to get on the rails and head out into the countryside. Everyone and everything we passed I found fascinating. This time we thought we'd be prepared and had made reservations at a hotel. Unfortunately, it looked a little closer to the main attraction on the map. That was all right. The neighborhood was colorful and quite entertaining. We whiled away more than a few hours hanging over the edge of the roof, checking out the goings-on. The Taj Mahal, a tomb, was built between 1631 and 1653 by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan in memory of his beloved wife Mumtaz Mahal. Approximately 20,000 laborers worked on the construction of the Taj Mahal. Some of the artisans from as far away as France and Italy. While wandering the grounds, this man found me and showed me some places I could get a nice angle for a shot. Afterwards, he hit me up for bakshish, a tip, which I obliged. These other fellas just wanted a picture. One thing that many Indian cities have in common is a central fortification. Agra is no different. Its Red Fort is an amazing structure itself, though overshadowed by the beauty of the Taj Mahal. Construction first began under Emperor Akbar in 1565 as a military structure. When it was completed in the early 1600s under Shah Jahan, it was used as a palace. We were finding India to be a feast for the senses, with many interesting things for the observant to see. It was here that we began to notice something quite peculiar that would occur on numerous occasions. Some Indian men like to casually ease their way into your pictures, naturally seeming nonchalant about it. Another oddity was finding yourself as an object of curiosity. It was a bit unnerving at first. While traveling, I've always wanted to blend into a place and watch life without it watching me. In the Red Fort, for the first time, we saw monkeys up close. Animals we would come to see on almost a daily basis. For nature abounds in India, and to the Hindu majority, all life is sacred. This fellow offered some fruit to feed the monkeys. Afterwards, he mentioned it came at a price. We left Agra by bus for the pink city of Jaipur. It's called so due to the pink paint that was put on the walls of buildings in the old part of the city. In the culture of Rajasthan, the Indian state we were now in, pink is the color of hospitality. At 6 a.m., Siobhan and I got up to beat the heat and walk up to the Nahagar Fort, high above Jaipur. The path eventually arrived at the desolate fort, which was terrific to wander in. My mind did the same as I tried to picture what life was once like here in the fort. The contrast between the fort and the crowded streets below was amazing. It was so peaceful up here. It was beautiful, quiet. This was the first time since arriving in the country that we were outdoors and almost all alone. At this point in our trip, we'd been in India about 2 weeks. We were getting into the groove of things, but it was becoming apparent we weren't on holiday. What I mean is that on holiday, you can relax. Here you always had to be on your guard. That sounds paranoid, but as a Westerner, you naturally draw a lot of curious folk who want to greet you, ask questions, or sell you something. In a country of over 950 million people, you can't help but meet a few folk like that.
How far away would you say you
Surprised at seeing this wild peacock we happened upon. I had to follow him for a little while.
10 feet away.
Or as best I could. Until he lost me. It was like a dream being in India. The most unexpected things would happen, then reoccur, time and again. It was one amazing place.
Back down.
Getting hungry, it was time to go back down into Jaipur, where it seemed business as usual. We found a market and had a breakfast of fruit as we watched the traffic. After a few days of exploring Jaipur on foot and wandering through the palace and museums, we left for the city of Pushkar and its holy lake. Pushkar is a small town off the beaten track. The lake is a pilgrimage site for devout Hindus who come to wash in its holy waters. A serene place during our visit, it becomes quite congested during the annual camel fair sometime in November. Once again, we were up at the dawn, this time to walk up to the Ranji temple above Pushkar. We ascended the path to the accompaniment of a blazing sunrise. Gaining the temple and its views made rising early well worth the effort. A Hindu family was also walking up to the temple to give offerings and prayer. We stayed up here for a couple hours enjoying the sights and the relative cool of the morning. It was nice to share so tranquil a place with native people and be able to observe their customs up close. They were very friendly, and when they left, we traded smiles and goodbyes. We also met Choi, a Thai man we would eventually see again in our travels. Soon our stomachs were starting to grumble for breakfast, so after a quick last look around, we too descended. We got back in time for the arrival of the milkman, going about his daily rounds. I never tired of noticing the contrasts between what I was used to at home and the novel approaches done elsewhere. Not to mention the fact that I hadn't seen an actual milkman in years. With transaction complete, it was on to the next stop.
Morning, baby.
The milkman's comings and goings weren't to be missed, as this motorcycle sure could have used a muffler.
And away goes the milkman.
Our hotel here in Pushkar, the VK Tourist Palace, was very nice for budget accommodation. For 100 rupees per night, about $3 US, we had a clean, secure place with the bathroom and view. The restaurant on the roof served a buffet of excellent local dishes. An incredible deal at 27 rupees, or about 75 cents. With entertaining views all around, we passed many a meal watching the neighborhood goings-on. We probably overstayed our visit.
Good luck, like.
On a walk about the streets of Pushkar, we happened upon this group of monkeys. People give them offerings of food because in the Hindu religion, certain animals are revered, like the monkey warrior Hanuman. This fella's a sadhu, or holy man. They roamed the land in search of religious enlightenment. It looked like he'd found something. A walk through the fields surrounding Pushkar opened our eyes to their farming of roses. The flowers are processed to make rose water, which is used cosmetically. Unfortunately for us, the flowers weren't in season, but the surrounding landscape was intriguing all the same. Planning to stay only a few days, the town's tranquility and slow pace kept us a bit longer.